the Brewers. Caleb Durbin had a nice year for him. Was this just straight up Caleb Durbin and Monasterio because they wanted the pitching they got back from the Red Sox? Because this one, I mean, Durbin's controllable for a long time. Do they just need a pitcher? Did they like the return that much that they had to give up a piece that was really good for him last year?
Yeah, I reached out to Matt Arnold this morning. I've not heard back from him. Caleb Durbin was the best player that was in this trade. He's going to be the starting third baseman for the Red Sox. I know Craig Breslow came out and said second or third base, but like Brendan Donovan in Seattle, the plan, at least initially, is to play third base, which makes sense kind of where they are. Then Meyer can play second, or Gonzalez can play second if Meyer's wrist is okay. But that's where that's going to play. I was kind of taken aback a little bit when I heard the news, only because I've never seen Kyle Harrison with control and command. I've seen the arm, I see I see everything. I just don't know if it's going to get there. But, the one thing that really hit me again today is he's 24 years old. That's it. Been around a long time, but he's still only 24 and left-handed and with that kind of arm. So, do you have people in your pitching room that you can improve the secondary pitches? Can you improve the delivery, the release point? Can you improve the command and control? I mean, if my pitching people think they can, I had to trade Peralta for Sproat. You never get enough starting pitching. And look, the Brewers stockpile it. My guess is going to be that they think Harrison eventually, whether it be in a year or two, can become a guy. And look, I remember way back when I had a pitcher by the name of Pete Sherrick. I claimed him on waivers from the New York Mets, and he didn't have command and control. The velo was a little bit down, and then my pitching coach at the time, Don Gullett, made some adjustments, and I was needing a starting pitcher, and I flew into Pittsburgh to scout Zane Smith at the time. And I always tell the story that I went to Pittsburgh to scout Zane Smith, and I came back with my own Pete Sherrick, because all of a sudden the pitching people made adjustments with him. He finished second in Cy Young Award the next year, and he was a waiver claim. And so Kyle Harrison at this age, is it possible that they maybe have the secret formula? That's the only thing I can think of. Now, that being said, the other thing to keep in mind is that they do have, guys coming in the system, Pratt and Fisher. Made is going to be a superstar, but he's a couple years away, but he's going to be a star. And the other thing is you could put Ortiz to third. You could move Turang from second to short and play Jet Williams at second base. Or you could leave Turang at second, put Jet at short with Ortiz at third. So, the Jet Williams trade may have made them believe that Durbin was kind of expendable, perhaps. But, I look at Durbin kind of like I looked at Brendan Donovan. I think he's a very useful player who plays above his tools. He's 5'7", but he doesn't chase out of the zone. He keeps the bat in the zone. He's dirty by the national anthem and can play second, third, and a few positions. So I like the pickup for Boston. Although I will say this, Rafael Devers, what did you get back for Devers? Jose Bayo now? Oh my God.
They got rid of money. Speaking of money, the Brewers haven't spent any. I get it. They got Big Woo back on a higher price. Maybe they didn't think he was going to come back on the qualifying offer, but third base is open. Leave Turang at second where he won a platinum glove, and they said, hey, we're not moving him to short because he's so good at second. Does this open up an Isaac Paredes type of move for them because they haven't spent any money? Not at all.
No, because that's not a Matt Arnold kind of player. He's not athletic enough, not good enough defensively to play over there. Matt Arnold likes these athletes that have range. He's really big on athletes and gloves, and Paredes just doesn't fit that for them. So, yeah, I haven't heard Paredes there at all. And the other thing to keep in mind, Dana Brown, the GM, and I know he's on the last year of his contract, as is his manager, Joe Espada, and he has been out there. But keep in mind, the Astros also understand they have a lot of players on this team that are high injury risk. Christian Walker, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Carlos Correa, all of them are high injury risk. And you got to think that probably one of them is going to be on the injured list most of the year, at least one of them at a time. So as much as Paredes looks like depth, will he look like depth on opening day? That's a question that I would ask. And Alvarez, look, he really does need a DH here. So what Houston was trying to do is they were trying to trade Paredes to fill left field. And if they could have done a package to get Jarren Duran from Boston, that would have made sense. So if it was Paredes and some prospects for Duran, then they put Duran in left, Alvarez at DH with Correa at third, Walker at first, Altuve at second. That's kind of what they were trying to do. But they don't have to move Paredes because of money. They're where they want to be, where the owner wants to be budget-wise. So it's not like they're trying to move them. They're just trying to move them if they can find a better fit and help them win more games.
Okay. So for Boston, JB, they essentially choose Durbin over Paredes. And I just want to go through Durbin's StatCast page to try and get a glimpse of how front offices view a player like this. I think some Brewers fans are like, whoa, we traded him in 5 seconds. That's a pretty unique baseball savant page, right? There's tons of blue that are in the bottom percentiles, and then there's some red that is way up there. And just for our podcast crowd, I'll just lay out a few parts here, JB, but his expected stats like batting average, slugging on base, pretty low, right? Exit velo, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, bat speed, like towards the bottom of the sport, but then squared up percentage, chase percentage, whiff percentage, strikeout percentage. So he makes contact, but this was something that was talked about when he was a player in the Yankees system. The Yankees love the reverse of this, right, JB? They're looking for these big power mashers, bat speed, exit velo. Makes sense he moves to the Brewers. If the Brewers say no to a player like this, do you think there's any reasoning for teams, and their front offices not believing in the metrics?
So the metrics tell the truth, right? They do. It's science. It's being measured. So what you're reading is accurate. I think Jim Leyland, the Hall of Fame manager, would always call a player like Durbin, oh, he's just a baseball player. I can win with him. He's a baseball player. And, you can't have a team filled with the Durbins, but that's that extra piece that sits there and makes the plays defensively, takes the extra base, throws a nice throw on a cutoff play, gets a good secondary lead. It's just a guy that knows how to play the game and is tough and helps players around him the energy that he brings to the ballpark every day. So he's got a lot of intangibles. And, I think front offices like the fact he doesn't chase, like the fact that he squares it up. We've seen a lot of guys that, don't do well on StatCast numbers, right? In general, guys that don't have good bat speed, but still win batting titles like Luis Arraez. I mean, those guys are out there. So you just have to interpret it. To me, when I look at Durbin, I look at him as a really good extra player on a championship team. I look at him as that fifth infielder type, right? That's kind of how I view him. I kind of view him as like a poor man's Brendan Donovan. Not Brendan Donovan because he's more of a, traffic guy at the top of the lineup. But he's a winning player. And, I can see why Boston wanted him. And I don't think they wanted him over Paredes. They wanted him over the trade cost. What they would have had to give up for Paredes was significantly more than what they gave up here. I mean, they realized they blew the Devers trade, right? They don't think Harrison's going to get command and control, and they don't think the other guy's got a good arm, but same thing, right? Neither one of those guys have control. And so I think they feel like, here's a quality guy as they wait for, Marcelo Meyer to develop, or, they wait for their other young prospects to get ready. I don't think he's an answer that's going to, really move the needle outside of he is an Alex Cora type player. Alex Cora will know how to get the most out of Durbin.
Red Sox fans thought this was the time the Red Sox were going to push all in, and this is most likely their last move of the offseason. And even Craig Breslow said, when we go get pitching, we're looking for a 1 or a 2 to go behind Garrett Crochet. Well, they just kind of tickled around the decisions that it feels like they didn't quite push all the way in. Like you said, the price for the trade was too much. The price for a Framber Valdez was too much. It always just seemed like they came up with a reason not to make the big move. Did they fail this offseason, or did they just kind of meddle in the middle?
Well, I think they did a good job with the pitching, right? I mean, I do like the blend of Sonny Gray and Ranger Suarez after Crochet in the rotation. And they're now 7-8 deep in starters. Bullpen's strong. So I think from a pitching perspective, they're in a good place. I think their outfield defense is in a really good place, and offense. I'm a little bit concerned about the infield, with an aging Trevor Story. The other thing to me, though, is they're just missing that big bat. I mean, I don't know if there's a way they could trade for a Rafael Devers. Oh, sorry, I couldn't resist.
Too
Or
soon.
maybe they could sign an Alex Brett. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. But I mean, that's what they're missing. They're missing a big bat. So, you're looking at this lineup now. Is Contreras a cleanup hitter now with Abreu hitting fifth? Is that kind of where they're going? I feel like the bottom third of the lineup is going to be a challenge, and you're in a really tough division when you got Toronto, the Yankees, and the Orioles, all of whom have way better offenses than you do. So, as much as I love their outfield, I do love their pitching. I just don't know if their offense is lethal enough to win. I don't think they've done enough on the offensive side of their team.
Let's keep rolling on this trade right now with the Red Sox picking up Caleb Durbin. I mean, when you see that headline this morning, that's a shocker, isn't it?
Well, just shocker because the Brewers, I guess Hamilton is going to replace what Caleb Durbin can do, but then, the way, and then Jet Williams, it's like, but then I guess they want Harrison really bad. I mean, Monasterio got some big hits for him.
Drohan's
nice too. Drohan
and they have
was one of
youngsters.
their bigger prospects.
Yeah, Fisher, what was he, their first round pick last year, and he's going to play in the WBC. They're waiting for those guys, but it's like you're trying to have the best record in baseball and make the playoffs again.
Are they?
And I think they are. And now,
have they spent any money in free agency? I know Woodruff in his qualifying offer, but have they signed anybody in free agency? I don't think so. I was trying to look it up before the show, and I don't think they have, unless I thought they made a signing early, and it was like, I know it wasn't Colin Ray, but it was like that type of starter signing where it was like, okay, I see where they're at, but it's not like replacing Freddie Peralta. I don't know. Scotty's better at that stuff.
I don't believe so. I think, Woodruff and arbitration avoidance with Jake Bowers, but nothing.
But they've traded away a lot. Freddie Peralta, Tobias Myers, Durbin, Monasterio. These are guys that were like on their team. Mm-hmm. They're counting on Mizorowski to be able to start for them, right? They're counting on Brandon Woodruff, who hasn't been healthy, sadly, in a long time for a full season. Right? I mean, they're counting on guys, Quinn Priester and some of these guys, to have really great years that haven't done it multiple times in a row. I mean, last year they brought in Quintana, who helped them a huge amount, right? They brought in Rhys Hoskins, who say what you want. They brought in Ranger Vaughn, who went off to help them. They did make some moves last year to help them. They made the trade for Durbin. So last year they were doing things, and this year it's like, okay, yes, I understand Jet Williams and some of the other things they've done, but they're not. At some point, you got to play in the big boy pool. We always say this, and right now the Brewers are not, and they've had success, so I can't knock them, but they haven't had that much success because this is the first year they won a playoff series in a long time too. Are they okay with just making the playoffs? Like that's my thing. Are they okay with doing that? Because if that's the case, then you know what? Man, they got this cool formula to make the playoffs. As a Brewer fan, yes, I am a fan of the Brewers, the organization, the people in the front office, the way everything's run. It's cool stories. But how can you get rid of two guys who finished third and fourth in the National League and Rookie of the Year voting? Did they win it? No, they didn't win it. Isaac Collins and Caleb Durbin are off this team. They were guys that personified what the Brewers are. Are they getting rid of them because it's max value? Okay. How many times can you keep hitting on that? How many times can you have a team? Then they have their superstar. They have Jackson Churio. Can he stay healthy? He's still learning how to stay healthy and be a player in the game. Does Bryce Terang take his August, September and become an MVP candidate because he's got an elite glove? I don't know if he's got that level. He's an all-star, so you have your pieces on the team, but the last few years, everyone's like, oh, they've done this the last few years. They had Josh Hader. They had Devin Williams. They had Freddie Peralta. They had Corbin Burns. They had all those guys throughout that time. It's a lot to put on The Miz. It's a lot to put on Big Woo to carry this team if you keep decimating it, unless they really do find this value in Kyle Harrison and in Drohan, in Hamilton being that guy that steps in as the next piece. It's tough to see as a Brewer, as a fan of the Brewers.
I'm with you. I mean, this team had the best record in baseball. They got dusted by the Dodgers. And you look at their offseason and you're like, do they believe this is their winning window? Are they trying to play the percentages game of how many cracks can we get at the postseason and eventually it'll work? They've been doing that for like a decade.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to say this, and listen, the National League is really hard.
Yeah.
Right now, the way the National League is set up, it's really hard.
But they were the best record in baseball last year.
But then I'll ask this. I know didn't they like sweep the Dodgers in the regular season? The Dodgers just pounded them in the playoffs.
Sure.
Right? They also lost the first 4 games. The torpedo bats of the Yankees. They lost the first 4 games like 100-6. Right? Murph made a joke about it in his speech. But being great in the regular season, and Kratz says this, he thinks there's regular season teams and there's playoff teams. Being great in the regular season, if you don't win the World Series, how many World Series have the Brewers ever won in their history of the franchise?
Zero.
How many times have they been to the World Series?
Once.
1982.
Okay.
Harvey's Wallbangers lost to the Cardinals. So they haven't gotten to 82. Okay, we're 44 years from then.
They don't believe in the all-in thing.
They do believe in all in, but they can only do what they're given. Right? I think Matt Arnold does a terrific job with what he's given to work with. He's like I just blanked on the guy in Seattle.
Dipoto? Yeah.
Right? Dipoto's given a budget, and he tries to make all these moves to try to make them better, but he has to keep a certain budget, right? It's kind of what the Rays did for so long. They were like, oh, we got to keep it around this payroll, and they would flip guys here and there. The Brewers are trying to do that, and they've had success doing it. Much like the Rays. The Rays haven't won a World Series either, right? But eventually that bubble burst, and then you almost got to start over with a new crew. Sorry, Brew Crew. I didn't mean that was not intentional.
No, that played well.
But you have to start over with like a new crew, right?
Isn't that what the Rays are going through right now?
The Rays are kind of going through it right now because also the American League East has gotten better because Toronto now is really good. The Yankees are usually pretty good. The Red Sox went through a little lull. Now they're coming it back, right? The Orioles finally got it figured out a little bit. So now the Rays are like, man, shit, we got to do something different. So now they're trying something different, right? The thing with the Brewers they've also caught the Cardinals have been in a down ride. The Pirates haven't been good for 10 years. The Cubs have been, they won in 2016, but since then they've kind of been meh, right? So the division also is kind of lined up for them where, hey, Burns, Peralta, Woodruff, all these guys. I mean, Yelich is a year older. Yelich can't make it through a full year anymore. And it sucks because he's really good when he's out there. Right? Contreras is about at the end of his Brewer tenure.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're like, okay, well, who are we counting on? And they keep making these trades. But at some point, you have to hit on every single one of these.
They're becoming the Rays. They can turn some
They're
pitchers
really good.
into stars, and there's massive amounts of churn, and it's causing them to be competitive every year. Like you said, how much of that has to do with all of this success in the organization, and some of it to do with a very down division over the last few
But they're
years.
really good at it. They've been successful, so you can't knock them, right?
Yeah,
Matt Arnold's been really good at it.
It's just frustrating to not. I don't think this is a front office.
But the
thing.
ballpark
This is probably an
is
owner
packed.
thing. Yeah, like you didn't make any extra money last year.
The ballpark was packed, right? They beat the Cubs in 5 games in the DS.
Right.
I mean, they obviously they lost to the Dodgers, but I mean they I don't know what else you want if you're a Brewer. If you're a Brewers fan, like they come to every game I do for Fox. There is packed. I mean, not an empty seat in the place, and they go crazy and they love their guys. They love their team.
I know
it's like the Bucks. Like they have the Bucks too, right, in Milwaukee, right? So they have the Bucks really and the Brewers. Okay, Green Bay is not in Milwaukee. It's not. It's like 2 hours away, right? Whatever. But they love those teams. I mean, you walk around Milwaukee, you see Brewers stuff everywhere, and you see Bucks stuff everywhere. They support the heck out of that team.
Can I throw this out there? Because I think this is the comp. I feel as if the Diamondbacks approach is a little more boom or bust. And then all of a sudden they end up, say, 2023 in the World Series, right? They make some moves that it's like, this is going to really work or this is going to be a disaster. I feel like the Brewers are super safe. So their ceiling, I think, is lower and their floor is higher. I'd rather be a Diamondbacks fan in terms of the way that the team looks at themselves, right? There's some guys that you know are going to be there for a while. It causes some continuity. You take some big risks, and some years you go through a mini rebuild at the very least. And I think fans are okay with that if they felt like they had that all-in push. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're just like, I want my team to be good every year and be borderline or playoffs every year.
Would you rather have a team that makes the playoffs and never wins a World Series?
No
Okay.
question.
We're about to talk to Noah Hiles. What city is he in?
He is in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'm saying no question. I want the team that's going for it and then
because
Mike
Tomlin just resigned. Noah Hiles covered him. Mike Tomlin, 19 straight years, never had a losing record. He won one Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But the last, I don't know how many ever years since he won that Super Bowl, they've been 9-8, 10-6, but they lose in the first round every year. Do you want that team? The Atlanta Braves, for all those years, they won all those division championships. They won one World Series. The Brewers, the last how many ever years, have made the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, we're great, guys. We're in the playoffs. Let's go, team. And then they lose.
It's
like, or would you rather have the Diamondbacks who have won a World Series? Now, it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But they
you
got to
ask a fan. You got to ask a Brewers fan. Not just a fan of baseball.
Okay.
You got to ask a Brewers fan because they're exactly like, I know we're going to get to Noah, but they're exactly like what AJ said. Brewers fans are there. They support the Bucks. They support the Brewers. They support the loser players like me, just like they support the superstars like Yelly and Churio. Like, they really delve into their team. So that question, I think, has to be asked by that fan base. Do the Guardians won a World Series or just every other year in the playoffs type of run? Do the Brewers won a World Series or 7 straight playoff runs where your heart gets broken, or 7 of 8?
The Diamondbacks is a very recent example. It's 2023. They were in the National League. National League was pretty loaded, and they figured out a way to get through. So,
they had unbelievable. They first of all, they got hot as all hell, fire and brimstone for those 2 weeks.
Sure.
The Phillies, they're down 3-1. It never should have happened. Mm-hmm. And they just said, you know what, Phillies? We're just going to throw you slider on every pitch. And their Phillies were like, we've never seen one of those before. We forgot how to hit.
Fastballs for balls. Fastballs for balls in and sliders.
I mean, that was 3 straight games. That's all they did. Fastballs in, ball. Oh, they're going to throw me another one. Slider, slider, slider. Oh, fastball for ball. Ah. It was like, and they couldn't beat them. And then they ran into the Rangers, who obviously took them down in the 23 World Series. But are you happier with that? Once every 10 years, you make a deep run to the World Series?
It's not like you don't make the playoffs at all around that. I'm just saying you have more variance. You have a few years where you're a contender. You have a few years where you're not.
So you'd rather just be Mike Tomlin?
No. Me, I want the Diamondbacks. That's my whole point. I want the ride. Give me the ride.